Welcome to the Politica UK Infopod. As the conflict between the United States, Israel, and Iran intensifies, one question is increasingly being asked by analysts and policymakers around the world. Could the war eventually lead to boots on the ground? So far, the conflict has largely been fought through airstrikes, missile attacks, naval operations, and proxy forces. The United States and Israel have relied heavily on air power and long-range weapons to strike Iranian military infrastructure. Iran, in turn, has responded with missile strikes, drone attacks, and the mobilisation of allied militias across the region. But large-scale ground warfare would represent a very different phase of the conflict. Invading a country the size of Iran would be an enormous military undertaking. Iran is geographically vast, mountainous in many areas, and home to more than 80 million people. Military planners have long warned that a full ground invasion would require hundreds of thousands of troops and carry enormous risks. That is one reason why most analysts believe a traditional invasion of Iran by Western forces remains unlikely. Instead, if boots on the ground appear in this war, they are far more likely to take different forms. The first possibility would involve limited special operations forces. Small numbers of highly trained troops could be deployed for targeted missions such as intelligence gathering, hostage rescue, or the destruction of specific military facilities. These kinds of operations are already a routine part of modern warfare and could expand without becoming a full-scale invasion. A second possibility involves regional allies. Countries in the Gulf already host American and allied military bases, and some have their own forces operating in defensive roles. If the conflict expands, local troops from Gulf states could become more directly involved in securing infrastructure, protecting shipping routes, or defending key facilities. A third, and often overlooked factor, is proxy warfare. Iran has long relied on allied militias across the Middle East, including groups in Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, and Yemen. Those forces could act as Iran's boots on the ground, in various theaters, attacking military bases, targeting shipping, or opening new fronts without Iranian regular troops crossing borders. In response, the United States and its partners might rely on their own regional partners to counter those groups. In other words, the war could see ground fighting, but not necessarily between American soldiers and Iranian troops directly. There is also a political dimension. Large-scale ground wars in the Middle East have become deeply unpopular in many Western countries after the experiences of Iraq and Afghanistan. Political leaders are therefore under strong pressure to avoid long occupations or costly troop deployments. For that reason, military planners increasingly favor strategies that rely on air power, naval control, economic pressure, and local allies rather than massive troop deployments. So what is the most likely scenario? Most experts believe the war will remain primarily an air and missile conflict, supported by naval operations and proxy forces across the region. But the longer the war continues, the greater the chance that some form of ground involvement could emerge. Whether through special forces, regional allies, or proxy militias, boots may eventually appear on the ground. The real question may not be whether there will be boots on the ground, but whose boots they will be. This infopod was brought to you by Politica UK.